Our story kicks off with Will, who's walking out of his house while on the phone with his dad. He's trying to convince him that he's fine going to his friend's wedding, and that his dad doesn't need to worry like he always does. Will quickly ends the call, clearly hating to be smothered, but as soon as he hangs up, disaster strikes. His car is clamped with a boot and a parking ticket. Just as he's losing hope, he spots a poster for a car rental agency. He decides to head right over and rent a replacement. Will gets to the place, and it's just this huge, strange warehouse. He walks up to a table where a man and woman are sitting. They start asking him for his name and a bunch of really personal details. Will is totally weirded out by all the questions. It feels more like a job interview than a car rental. He asks for a car to get to the wedding, and they ask him how he'll find his way. Will simply says he'll use the GPS, but they stop him. They tell him the car has its own special GPS, and the only condition is that he must rely on it for directions. Will agrees, and the two of them look strangely pleased. We cut to Will driving, listening to the GPS voice guiding him right to the hotel. He walks in with the other guests. At that exact moment, we see another woman, Jane, arriving in an identical car. Inside the hotel, the bride and groom appear under the rain, and in that moment, Will's eyes lock onto Jane's and they share a look. At the reception, the newlyweds introduce Will and Jane to each other and then ditch them to talk. They stand there in awkward silence. Will offers to get her a drink, but she declines. The conversation flatlines immediately, so Jane just walks away. We see her later, dancing and totally in her element at the party. Meanwhile, Will is standing outside, smoking, alone. Jane comes out and sees him, and they approach each other again. She jokes, telling him he needs to stop being so charming. Will asks if she is worried about him. Jane cleverly replies, "I'm worried about you." She tells him she doesn't fall for people easily and that she has very high standards. Then, completely out of nowhere, Will asks her, "Do you believe in marriage?" Jane says she does and asks him the same. He tells her that ever since he was a kid, he used to draw pictures of himself married with kids. This is when Jane hits him with a bombshell. "So, do you want to marry me?" Will is stunned and tells her she's probably had too much to drink. Jane replies that he's too charming and too perfect, to the point where he seems fake. Will is taken aback by this and insists this is just who he is. Jane asks him to dance with her, but he refuses. So, Jane excuses herself and goes right back to the party, leaving him alone again. Will stays and watches her from a distance, filled with instant regret for not dancing with her. He goes back to his hotel room feeling like a total failure. The next day, Will is driving, and suddenly, he hears the female voice from the GPS speaking to him, like she can see him. He's shocked and confused. He thought it was just a normal navigation system. The GPS offers him a beautiful journey. It tells him if he agrees, it will guide him. Will doesn't understand, but honestly, he's desperate to shake off his depressed mood. He responds, "I'm in." The GPS guides him to his first stop, a burger joint on the highway. And there, while he's eating, he's stunned to see Jane sitting in the same restaurant. Jane is just as surprised to see him. She gets up and sits with him, asking what brings him here. He lies and says it was just a coincidence. Jane seems intrigued by the random chance that brought them together. She asks, "So, are you going to ask me out on a date or what?" Will reminds her that he did ask her for a drink yesterday, and she's the one who shot him down and went to dance. Jane tells him the whole thing isn't worth the risk, and it's better if they just stay away from each other. Outside the restaurant, it's pouring rain, but suddenly the rain stops and the sun comes out. They discover their cars are parked side by side. Jane rented the exact same car from the same weird agency. It seems she also agreed to the GPS's special journey. They say goodbye and get into their cars, but at that moment, Will's GPS tells him to take Jane with him, and right on cue, Jane's car breaks down. So Will takes her with him. Will drives, and they arrive at the first stop on the journey. They get out and find themselves in a beautiful natural landscape. They walk until they find a door, just standing alone in the middle of nowhere with nothing behind it. They stare at it, confused. They take a breath and walk through the door and are instantly transported somewhere else. Will recognizes it. He tells her this is the lighthouse he used to visit as a kid. It's a piece of his past. He shows her the view of the ocean and starts opening up about his life and how after all these years, he still feels lost. They continue the trip, still totally confused about the purpose of this journey, just following the GPS.
They arrive at a second door. Jane knocks, and someone opens it from the inside. They enter, and Jane greets the security guard, who seems to know her.
They realize they're in the art museum Jane used to love when she was a child. As they look at the paintings, Will notices Jane staring at one in particular, looking deeply emotional. Jane tells him that her mother died in the hospital at the exact same time she was at this museum as a little girl. She says she's blamed herself for years, wishing she had been with her mom in her final moments instead of letting her die alone. Later, back in the car, Will asks her, "Why are you single?" Jane confesses that she always cheats in relationships. It's happened so many times that she feels it's just better for her not to be with anyone because she always ruins it.
Jane asks him, "What about you? Why are you single?" Will answers, "I just haven't met the right girl." Jane doesn't buy it, telling him his answer is lame. But Will insists it's the truth. As they drive, they are suddenly transported to a new place, which looks like a theater stage. There, a hospital door opens in front of them. They are entering a painful part of Jane's past. In the hospital, a doctor informs Jane that her mother passed away an hour ago. She reassures her that it was peaceful and she wasn't in pain. Jane asks if her father was there. The doctor says no, she was alone when she died. Jane breaks down, overwhelmed by the guilt she's carried for so long. Back on the stage, Will tries to comfort her, telling her she can't blame herself for what happened. She was just a kid at a museum. It wasn't her fault. But here, Jane tells him the whole truth. She wasn't at the museum. She was having an affair with her professor. When people asked, she lied and said she was at the art museum, and that's why she can never forgive herself. Jane goes into the room to see her mother one last time. Meanwhile, Will is walking through the hospital, and he's shocked when he sees his own father there. We cut back to Jane speaking to her deceased mother, telling her she remembers everything and will never forget what a wonderful mother she was. We find Will in the hospital waiting room, talking to his father from the past. His dad doesn't recognize him as his adult son. He looks terrified and anxious, telling Will that his son, Will himself, was born yesterday with health problems, and he's scared something will happen to him. Will sits next to him and reassures him, "Your son is going to live." His father, having no idea who he's talking to, just listens. Will tells him all fathers worry like this. His dad asks, "Do you have kids?" Will says, "Not yet." His dad replies, "Then you don't know the feeling of responsibility. It's overwhelming." Just then, a nurse comes to get his dad. Before he leaves, Will calls out, "You're going to be a good dad." His father looks back and says, "I'm going to try," and walks away. Jane returns to Will, who is waiting for her with balloons and a teddy bear. Back in the car, they continue their journey. Jane seems lighter, more at peace. Will starts to open up about his own childhood. He tells her about his mother, who used to leave the family for long stretches of time. He talks about how his dad felt crushed by responsibility, always worried he was a bad father. It made their relationship tense, and Will always felt like his dad regretted having them, like they were a burden. They arrive at a quiet spot to rest. Will asks her, "If we could go back to the moment we met at the wedding, would you have walked away like you did, or would we have talked?" They imagine themselves back at the wedding, but this time, their introduction is perfect. Not only that, but they share a slow dance together. Will tells her how much he needed that to happen. After this romantic moment, they get back on the road. Suddenly, a deer runs onto the road. They swerve, and the car flips over. Miraculously, they both crawl out unharmed, but the car is completely wrecked. Their journey is over. They decide to just start walking. But after a few minutes, Jane stops him. She asks him to end their relationship right now. She says there's no point in repeating the past, that they'll just end up hurting each other. She's convinced their relationship is doomed to fail once their real personalities eventually show. Will tries to argue, telling her this journey was a chance to figure out what they really need. He tells her, "I love you and I want to be with you." Jane fires back, "You don't know me. I ruin every relationship I'm in." Will insists, "I do know you. I've seen the real you on this trip, and I'm sure of how I feel. But Jane remains convinced that this infatuation will fade and the love will disappear. Will pleads with her, saying the love won't disappear as long as they want to be happy together. But Jane, scarred by her past failures, can't be convinced. She says it's not worth the risk. Will understands and doesn't push her any further. They continue walking. The next day at a motel, a strange man approaches them and says he's fixed the car. They have no idea how, but they thank him and get back in. They drive on, but this time in complete silence. There's nothing left to say. Will drives her back to her broken down car. Jane gets out and gets into her own car.
Her GPS asks, "Are you ready to continue your journey?" Jane snaps. She yells at the GPS that this journey is only causing her pain. She demands it take her home, saying she's tired and just wants to rest. At the same time, Will tells his GPS that he also wants to go home. The GPS guides them to their childhood homes. They each get out at different locations. Will walks through the door and finds himself transported to his old family home. He sees his mother, who speaks to him as if he's his father, telling him that Will, his child self, is waiting for him in his room. Will realizes he's experiencing his father's life from 20 years ago. He walks up the stairs to his old room. Meanwhile, Jane opens her door, peeks in, and slams it shut, horrified. She looks through the window and sees her mother, asleep on the couch. She realizes she's in the past, when she was a young girl. She enters and walks over to her mom, calling her name. Her mom wakes up, saying she was waiting for her. Jane grabs her mother and holds her in a tight hug. Her mom is confused, saying, "You're only 12. You don't need to worry about me like this." Her mom goes to the kitchen to make dinner, but Jane asked if they can just watch a movie together, like they used to. At the same time, Will opens his old bedroom door and sees his teenage self. Teenage Will looks depressed. He speaks to our Will, thinking he's his dad. He asks, "Are you disappointed in me?" Our Will immediately denies it. Teenage Will confides in him, "When Mom was gone, I used to hear you crying in your room at night." Will is deeply moved. He explains to his younger self that he was just crushed by the weight of responsibility. Back with Jane, her mom has fallen asleep during the movie. Jane wakes her up and confesses her fears, telling her that her future life is going to be terrible and that she'll fail at every relationship. Her mom replies, "I failed in a lot of relationships too. I don't know why, but I don't want you to be like me." Jane hugs her, crying. We return to Will, who is telling his teenage self that none of this was his fault. He assures him he was never disappointed in him, but that sometimes life just makes you feel disappointed. With Jane, her mother is tucking her in, advising her to be happy with herself first before looking for happiness in any relationship. Jane says goodbye, telling her mom she'll miss her. Will plays with his teenage self, and before he leaves, he tells him, "I always thought you were a special kid. You need to know that." He says goodbye and leaves. Jane also leaves her old house. They both get in their cars. Will returns to the rental agency to drop off the car. He asks the man and woman about Jane. They tell him she hasn't returned her car yet. The next morning, Will is sitting on his front porch, drinking coffee. We see Jane driving to the rental agency, but she's clearly hesitating. She asks her GPS, "Is this it? Is this the end of the journey?" The GPS replies, "You are the one who chooses your ending." Jane makes her decision and drives straight to Will's house. Will is completely stunned to see her and asks how she found his address. She replies, "The GPS brought me here." She continues, telling him she came to say something important, that he is someone worth taking a risk for, and if she was going to choose a partner for her life, it would be him and no one else. Then she admits it. She loves him too. Will gets up, walks over to her, and leads her inside his house, which becomes the final door on their magical journey. And that's where the film ends.